divine revelation. Ignoring September 3rd, 4, and May 5th hinder your miraculous blessings of 40 days. In the quaint village of Netherfield, whispers of divine truth began to emerge like the soft morning fog that blanketed the ancient chapel at the village's heart. It was there, one fateful day, that Martha, a devoted woman of 38, found herself kneeling in fervent prayer, beseeching St. Jude to intervene on behalf of her ailing husband, William. The air shimmered with divine energy. A palpable tension hung in the chapel, and in response to her desperate pleas, a voice of profound whisper swept through the sacred space, igniting her heart with a powerful urgency. "Gather, my people," it seemed to say, "for a miracle awaits." As September 3rd, 4, and 5 approached, Martha felt an inexplicable fire within her soul. It was no ordinary revelation. It resonated like the bells of the chapel, ringing calls to action. Light flickered in the corners of her imagination, and she envisioned the village uniting, hands clasped, hearts open, echoing prayers that could shake the heavens. She shared her vision, a 3-day, continuous prayer that could purify their spirits and bring forth blessings unlike any seen before. But the villagers hesitated, murmurs of mockery rippling through the pews, skepticism mingling with practicality. "Martha's gone mad," one old woman chuckled. Yet, somewhere deep within, Martha felt a promise of hope beginning to stir. Despite the doubters, Martha pressed on. She carried her message like a cross, undeterred by the shadows of disbelief that loomed over her once loving community. Each word she spoke inspired a flicker of faith, igniting something dormant within the hearts of her fellow parishioners. What if we could witness something miraculous? She implored as the cool breeze slipped through the chapel doors. The very fabric of the village felt taut with expectation, yet remained tethered by fear to the ordinary. What if it was for naught? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, Martha found herself alone with her thoughts in the chapel. She felt the weight of responsibility crushing her chest, but then a phenomenon unfurled around her. The air grabbed hold of her, electric with divine presence. The gentle flicker of candles transformed into a warm, golden glow. It became clear they could not ignore the call that had been issued. Each day before the appointed dates felt like an eternity, yet Martha waited praying, heart pounding, as she wondered what would unfold. On September 5th, the air in Netherfield crackled with an unparalleled energy. Villagers who had doubted began to trickle in, drawn by an unexplainable force that urged them forward. The chapel doors opened wide, revealing people gathered like moths to a flame, all driven by a single longing: connection, healing, and the hope for a miraculous blessing. As they began to pray, the walls of the chapel vibrated with their voices. Martha watched in awe as something miraculous unfolded, not just in her husband's ailing body, but within the hearts of all those gathered. What if they surrendered to this force? What if today unleashed a miracle they had only dreamt of? Martha's heart raced as she posed a silent question: what happens if they choose to ignore the revelation? The answer hung momentously in the air, a lingering mystery that called for soul-searching. The villagers stood on the precipice of transformation, gifted with a choice that could change everything if only they dared to believe. What would they choose? As the first rays of dawn broke on September 3rd, a brightness filled the chapel, urging the villagers awake. A soft breeze whispered through the cracks, carrying with it the fragrance of blooming heather, an omen of renewal. Martha stood by the chapel doors, her heart fluttering like a bird, alive with anticipation. Today was the day. She felt it deep within her bones. and she was ready to welcome anyone who would join her in faith. One by one, the villagers arrived, unsure but curious. There was Samuel, the baker, with flour dusted across his apron, Peony, the florist, whose fingers still smelled of roses, and old Mr. Timmons, whose limp had softened from years of resignation. All were drawn into the sacred space, their hearts ignited by an invisible force. Conversations hushed as the aroma of possibility filled the air. Martha stepped to the front, her voice steady, though her insides trembled. "Today we unite," she began, "not just as a gathering, but as a family. We lift our prayers high above these walls and into the heavens." The villagers nodded slowly, some clutching their rosaries while others closed their eyes, willing to embrace this moment of vulnerability. Each whispered prayer intertwined with hopeful sighs. They formed a collective heartbeat, pulsating with yearning for healing, strength, and transformation. As the hours slipped by, Martha led them through prayer, her spirit soaring. With each prayer offered, the once stalwart eyes of doubt melted into those of fervent belief. The chapel seemed to glow brighter, echoing with the weight of urging heavenly grace. It was as if angels themselves joined in the chorus, filling every crevice with sacred light. The sun soared higher, illuminating the faces of the gathered. Laughter began to bubble up amidst the prayers, a joyful release of hope mixed with a holy supplication. They sang hymns, their voices soaring through the open windows, echoing off the ancient stones. Each note stitched together their souls, binding them as one in faith. Yet, amid this newfound spirit of communion, a shadow lingered. Over by the side, Clara, a longtime skeptic, stood with her arms crossed tightly. She watched from a distance, uncertainty dancing behind her guarded expression. Martha's heart clenched as she felt the weight of her doubt, clinging like fog refusing to lift. Martha approached Clara with gentle resolve. "What troubles your heart, sister?" she asked, her voice soft as velvet. "I fear. What if we hope in vain? What if nothing changes?" Clara's voice trembled, a vulnerability emerging. Martha smiled with reassurance. "Sometimes, faith is not knowing what comes next, but trusting that a miracle can still be on the horizon. We do not fight alone. Each prayer we offer binds us to our Creator." Clara unwrapped her arms slightly, letting go of the fear that bound her. It was a small gesture, but it held monumental importance. They stood there, gazing into each other's eyes, until Clara nodded, slowly enfolding her heart in the warm embrace of faith. Meanwhile, the congregation began to fervently pray for the sick, especially for William, Martha's husband. Each person invoked a name, wrapped in layers of love and desperation. The air shimmered with hope as they clutched hands, uniting deep in shared conviction. As evening approached, a strange stillness cloaked the chapel. The villagers sensed it, a hush of anticipation that suggested something monumental was about to happen. With hearts woven together, they surrendered fully to the moment. Then it happened. A flicker of movement surged at the back, drawing their attention. A figure emerged, casting a long shadow across the flickering candlelight. Is it a sign of something yet unseen, or a prelude to divine intervention? The answer loomed in the air, electric with possibilities, pregnant with hope and wonder. What would the congregation discover as they continued their fervent prayers? The figure moved closer, resolving into a shape that was undeniably familiar. It was William, his presence sudden, like a strike of lightning illuminating a darkened sky. A soft gasp rippled through the congregation. Martha's heart raced as she saw the weary but healing smile that adorned his face. The collective breath of the villagers caught in their throats, hope igniting a blaze within. "William!" Martha could barely contain her joy. She sprinted to him, throwing her arms around him, sensation coursing through her like an electric pulse. The warmth of his embrace felt like a long-lost sun returning after an endless winter. The chapel erupted into hushed whispers and muffled gasps. Each heart beat in sync, mirroring the miracle unfolding before their eyes. For a moment, the world outside the chapel faded away. All that existed was the love that surrounded them, the unity forged in prayer and longing. "I knew you'd come back," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "We've been praying for you." William drew back slightly, his eyes shimmering with gratitude. "I felt your prayers," he said, his voice powerful yet gentle. "Each whisper brought me strength. I was lost in darkness, but those prayers were my light." I wasn't alone. Stirred by his words, the villagers surged forward, surrounding him, hands raised in praise. They formed a protective circle, a sanctuary of shared devotion. "Thank you, Lord," came a voice from the front, swelling into a chorus of grateful shouts. Joy cascaded through the room, filling every corner with a warm glow, the dark shadows all but banished. Then, in the swell of energy, Martha beckoned Clara to join. "See," she exclaimed, her heart a fluttering bird. "This is what faith can do." Clara stepped forward, uncertainty still lacing her features. Yet as she gazed into William's eyes, her defenses softened further. William's victory over illness spoke louder than any crafted words. The unexplainable truth resonated in the depths of her spirit. "Your change has come, Clara," Martha encouraged, tears still sparkling in the chapel's warm light. "Open your heart and let joy in." Clara took a deep breath, a shift rippling within her. She stepped into the circle, and as if by instinct, the villagers held hands around her, tightening their bond. "We've missed so much." All this time, she murmured, vulnerability spilling forth. With each heartbeat, the energy swelled, enveloping them in collective prayer, every murmured word a harmonious plea. They envisioned healing, restoration, hope like a river flowing freely through their midst. Suddenly, the air shimmered again, fractals of light dancing in the sanctuary. Martha felt a shift in spirit, a stirring beckoning her to raise her voice higher. "We gather here, O Lord, in your light. Fill us with your power and grace as we celebrate life renewed." As if answering her plea, a cascade of heavenly warmth washed over them, illuminating the chapel with golden glimmers. The shadows of doubt and despair began to dissipate fully, echoing a powerful promise. Perhaps it was just a moment, but it felt like eternity, an invitation to witness something grand. In that holy hush, Clara raised her arms, surrendering herself to this wave of divine energy. The congregation let out a communal gasp, hearts intertwined. They were entering another realm of faith, one where anything seemed possible. But just then, a low rumble echoed from above. The villagers paused, the joyous atmosphere now tinged with awe and uncertainty. What was this presence that stirred the very air around them? What wonders awaited them just beyond the veil of their understanding? Martha's heart raced. Was this a sign to prepare for something more profound? The chapel, alive with expectancy, thrummed with energy, as if the very walls were alive and breathing. What awaited them in the next chapter of their communion? The air shimmered with promise, a divine revelation awaited, ready to unfold in ways they could never have imagined. A hush fell over the congregation, broken only by the soft rustle of clothing and the faint echo of anxious breaths. Martha glanced around, taking in the faces illuminated by the ethereal light. Each person, a beacon of hope, mirrored her own yearning for divine communion. "Look!" Clara suddenly pointed upward, her voice trembling with awe. The low rumble continued to resonate, and the air felt thick with something sacred. A luminous light burgeoned from above, cascading down like molten gold, enveloping everyone as if the heavens themselves had opened in response to their faith. "Is it an angel?" someone whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "Or perhaps a message from God?" Another answered, glancing nervously at the altar as if seeking reassurance. Martha felt an unusual urgency pulse through her veins. "No matter what it is, we must stay united in prayer," she called, her own heart swelling with a blend of fear and exhilaration. She clasped Clara's hand tightly, squeezing it as if to impart strength. Together, they began to pray, voices rising higher, creating a melody of faith. The villagers joined, each heart beating in rhythm with the collective hope. In this circle, they felt like a tapestry woven together by unshakable threads of belief. Then, a soft yet powerful whisper slipped through the edges of consciousness. It was so profound, it felt tangible, washing over them like a soothing balm. Faith is the bridge, it seemed to say, to what lies beyond your sight. William stepped forward, his eyes drawn upward, captivated by the radiant glow. Follow that voice, he urged. It calls us to something magnificent. The people stirred, hearts beating faster, propelled by the weight of his words. Martha took a deep breath and ventured to the front, where the light felt most potent. The congregation watched with bated breath, a blend of wonder and anticipation weaving through them. Could faith truly lead them to the miraculous they craved? As she stood there, enveloped in the luminous embrace, a vision flickered in her mind of a lost child finding their way home, of hearts healed and lives transformed. The power of possibility pulsed around them, ready to break through the barriers that had long held them captive. "Let's not fear," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound strength. "Let us trust in the promise of this moment. Whatever lies ahead, we will embrace it together." The villagers harmonized with her, their belief fortifying the sanctity of the moment, as if the very universe conspired to respond to their devotion. Tears flowed freely now, as joy intertwined with the present, an unexplainable peace settling upon their hearts. Just then, the rumble intensified, vibrating through the chapel. The fabric of their reality seemed to stretch. What was about to happen? Murmurs of expectation filled the church. Then the light shifted, revealing forms within it, flickering like flames dancing in praise to the Lord. There appeared symbols of faith, fishes and loaves, hearts entwined, stars twinkling brightly. It was an invitation to deeper understanding, a call to greater love. Martha felt an awakening in her spirit, a promise that they were at the precipice of divine revelation. But as the forms began to take shape, a realization washed over her. Could they truly grasp the fullness of the blessings coming their way? In that moment, she understood that what they had witnessed was just the beginning. "What is it you seek?" That gentle voice echoed in her heart again. As the congregation stood captivated, a new question floated in the warm air, beckoning them to hold tight to their faith and prepare their hearts for the extraordinary. What marvels awaited them when they surrendered completely to this divine embrace? In this sacred space, something profound was about to unfold. The air grew heavier, pulsating with the merging of hope and anticipation. Martha felt her heart race, the intensity of the moment wrapping around her like a warm blanket. The radiant light danced in beautiful patterns, illuminating the faces of her fellow villagers, each reflecting awe and belief. A murmur slipped through the crowd. What could it mean? Martha turned to Clara, her voice steady yet filled with wonder. "This light, it feels like an invitation." As she spoke, she noticed the flicker of shapes swirling within the bright glow, each one more striking than the last. Fishes leaped forth as if caught mid-jump from a river of grace. Loaves multiplied in their golden hue like blessings cascading from heaven. "Are we worthy of such a sight?" Clara whispered, wide-eyed, clutching Martha's hand tighter. "If our faith is strong enough," Martha replied, "perhaps we are called to receive it." The congregation seemed to lean into the moment, a collective breath held in suspense. Each soul knew life was full of trials, yet here, amid this divine invitation, a current of hope flowed. Then, as if in sync with their thoughts, the light deepened, and the whisper resonated once more. "You have not yet seen what I can do." Martha felt a shiver run down her spine. Those words pierced her heart like an arrow of possibility. What had they not yet experienced? What miracles had weariness and doubt obscured? Suddenly, William stepped forward, emboldened. "Let us embrace the light." Let us proclaim our desires and fears. The time for miracles is now. His voice soared, echoing off the chapel walls. The villagers, filled with newfound courage, began to speak their wishes aloud. Confessions of longing, needs for healing, and dreams for full lives tumbled forth like offerings. "I pray for my son to return," shouted a mother, tears shimmering down her cheeks. "Heal my sister," another called, urgency propelling the words. Martha's own heart trembled as she thought of the burdens she carried, her longing for peace, the yearning for a community united in love and trust. "I seek a place where fear no longer reigns," she cried, her voice rising and mingling with those around her. As each voice joined the symphony of faith, the light pulsed brighter, responding to their cries with pure intention. The chapel vibrated in harmony, like the chords of a heavenly song, a divine chorus of hope echoing through the ages. Within the brilliance, a soft warmth suffused Martha's spirit. "Believe," the voice urged again, now clearer, and witness the extraordinary. She felt bathed in love, her faith emboldened by the unity of all who stood together. Was this what it meant to lean into the divine, to surrender fully and trust? Martha's soul soared at the thought, but with it came a question, one that echoed in her heart as the essence of the gathering sank deeper. Can we truly let go of our fears to embrace this light? They prayed on, unwavering in their trust, sensing that they stood at the threshold of something unimaginable. Every face held a flicker of divine potential. Each wish laid bare was a stepping stone toward a miracle yet unseen. As the brilliant light shone down and enveloped them, Martha knew one thing for certain: their journey was only just beginning. They had answered the call to faith, but the road ahead was still shrouded in mystery. What further revelations and divine encounters awaited them as they learned to walk deeper into the light's embrace? What new challenges would test their resolve? Hold on to hope, for the moment of divine intervention was fast approaching. The light enveloped the chapel in a radiant embrace, swelling in intensity and color. Martha's heart beat with purpose, each pulse resonating with the faith being shared around her. She could feel the collective energy, a tapestry woven from each villager's longing, woven with threads of sincerity and hope. Then, a gentle whisper floated through the air, carrying an ancient solemnity. "Silence your hearts for a moment and listen." The voice felt like a breeze on a sweltering day, beckoning them to lay aside their anxieties. Martha looked around, and the crowd fell still, every gaze upward, drawn to the source of the light. The shapes flickered, forming images that flickered like memories from another realm. There were hands, outstretched, appearing and disappearing like wisps of clouds. The murmuring continued softly, curiosity and reverence mixing in the atmosphere. "Have you not known?" The voice continued, penetrating the hearts of each listener. "The wonder of belief is not in what you can see, but in what you cannot, what lies beyond your understanding and the limitations of this world." The villagers exchanged glances, uncertainty etching their features. Clara turned to Martha, her eyes wide. "Do you think, is this real?" "Yes," Martha whispered back, her voice layered with conviction. "It's more real than we could ever imagine." Then, a surge of warmth washed over them, as if the love of the divine was hugging them all at once. "I am in your cries," the voice spoke, gentle yet strong. "Every tear, every prayer, every broken spirit, lift them to me. For I am here. I'm always here." Martha suddenly felt lighter. A wave of understanding began to crystallize in her soul. What they perceived as struggle, God perceived as honor. Every burden, every hardship faced, had the potential to transform into something beautiful. "Open your hearts," William shouted again, fire in his spirit. "Let the desires unite us." Around them, voices began to rise, each one an echo of desires previously entangled in fear. "I want to be free from this illness. Help me forgive those who wronged me. Bring hope to my broken family." With every proclamation, the light flickered in rhythm, answering their unspoken hopes like a melody in harmony. Resilience transformed into hope, doubt transmuted into resilience as each villager clung to the promise that something greater was at hand. Martha's own plea joined the chorus. Bring harmony where division holds. And the voice responded, now more resonant. Your faith, your voices are not in vain. For each prayer, grounded in love, gathers strength like a mighty tide. The chapel's glow brightened to a near blinding brilliance, and Martha closed her eyes, surrendering. Was it time to let go of not only their fears but the parts of them that held them back? In the depths of her heart, she believed. But could they all trust enough to invite the extraordinary into their lives? A hush fell over the crowd once more as the brilliance dimmed slightly, the weight of expectation settling over them like a blanket. In the serene pause, they could hear each other's breaths, mingling with the fragrance of hope in the air. What greater wonders await us? Martha pondered, her heart brimming with anticipation. In that moment, a question lingered like a whispered invocation, igniting a fervor within her spirit, a sacred invitation to seek what lay beyond this divine experience. What might their tomorrow hold if they stepped fully into faith and let go of every fear? A quietness enveloped the chapel, a serene moment where hope and wonder filled the air. Martha stood at the center of this divine gathering, her spirit soaring with the weight of aspirations shared by so many. She felt the heartbeat of the community pulse together, a single rhythm echoing within the hollow stone walls. I feel a stirring, Clara whispered, clenching her hands tightly as if to capture the very essence of faith swirling around them. Do you sense it too? Yes. Martha smiled softly, affection for her friend glistening in her eyes. It's the promise of something greater. We are on the brink. Around them, the villagers' expressions reflected unity and resolve, but beneath that collective strength, a flicker of vulnerability lingered. They had faced trials, and each one bore scars of their own making. But as the light dimmed slightly, revealing delicate shades of warmth, there was reassurance that surged through Martha's heart. With a shared breath, they lifted their voices again, this time calling out for miracles believed but seldom seen. Bring healing, give strength, restore our joy. Each voice wove a stronger thread in the fabric of their assembly. Even the children, wide-eyed and hopeful, raised their small, eager hands skyward. Your faith is as a flower, the voice returned, resonating deeply. Let it bloom in the light of your surrender. Martha closed her eyes, visualizing fields of flowers bursting into life. Transformation born from darkness into radiant colors. She realized that each request, each dream cast into the air, was a seed planted in fertile ground, nourished by love and belief. Let our fears fade, she murmured, making the silent prayer her own. Let our hearts awaken to hope. As if in response, a gentle breeze swept through the chapel, stirring the air and causing the candles to flicker. It danced around them, snaking through their breaths, holding promises of what was yet to come. In that moment, Martha felt a shift, a tangible sense that their unified faith was nudging open doors of potential. William stepped forward, his stance strong, eyes blazing with an inner fire. Let's not only dream, but dare. His voice filled the space, igniting embers of conviction among the villagers. What does it mean to live without fear? What if we invite the extraordinary? A wave of quiet contemplation rippled through the crowd. Could they? Would they allow their hearts to venture into the unknown? Martha surveyed the faces surrounding her. She saw the weight of burdens, the glimmer of hope, the flicker of doubt. We must decide, she proclaimed, words flowing with urgency. Are we willing to open our hearts wide enough to receive the miraculous? A hushed murmur swept through the crowd, a blending of trepidation and eagerness. They sensed life on the other side of their fears, a divine, unknown pulling them closer. In that charged atmosphere, the faintest spark ignited. It danced in the air, a literal flicker of divinity. The villagers, gripped by an inner revelation, stood in awe as the brilliance abruptly flared back to life, blinding, yet inviting. What if Martha dared to voice, what if we dared to believe in the impossibility, to reshape our tomorrow with faith as our foundation? Every heart throbbed with the potential of their spoken desires. The chapel pulsed as one, a heart of the community aspiring for unity, healing, and enlightenment. This was a moment not just to witness, but to participate in a divine unfolding. Yet, a fleeting thought lingered, a sacred challenge echoed within her spirit. What would it mean if they chose faith over fear, if tomorrow indeed unfurled as an extraordinary miracle born out of their collective resolve? The path ahead glimmered with promise, but what would it ask of them all? The air thickened with expectation as the villagers held on to Martha's words, their breaths lingering between hope and uncertainty. The flickering light danced playfully across their faces, illuminating the joy intertwined with their fears. Clara shifted closer to Martha, her grip tightening on her hand. What if we fail? What if we step out in faith only to fall? Martha turned to her friend, a gentle smile carving its way through her resolve. That's the beauty of faith, dear Clara. It isn't about the promise that all will go as we wish. It's about believing that something greater is always at work. A ripple of nods and murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd, forming a wave of shared understanding. Each villager could feel it. The allure of the extraordinary blended with the weight of past disappointments. Suddenly, an elder's voice rose above the assembled bodies. Old man Jacob stepped forward, his hands weathered yet steady, eyes glistening with ancient wisdom. When the Israelites wandered the wilderness, they cried out in fear. But every time God showed them a path away through the storm. Our past holds no power over the miracle unfolding now. We must forward with hearts open wide. His declaration resonated deeply within the congregation. Martha felt the renewed strength of their collective spirit. "You hear that?" she exclaimed. "The call for courage, the promise of guidance. Each step in faith is a seed falling into the earth, ready to bloom." At that moment, the chapel seemed to vibrate with energy, as if the stones themselves were awakened by their resonance. Children giggled, their laughter weaving into the heartfelt pledges of the adults, creating a beautiful harmony. That mixture of laughter and promises drifted upward like incense, drawing the attention of heaven. Henry, the blacksmith, raised his voice, his passion crackling like the forge where he worked. "Then let us not just sow our seeds. Let us prepare the ground. Let us tend to it with love, with action, and trust that heaven shall water it." That passionate plea sparked a frenzy of determination. Villagers began discussing ways to support one another, ways to plant their dreams and nurture each other's aspirations. The chapel walls thrummed with energy as chatter evolved into laughter, laughter into cries of resolve. "Let's start by sharing our dreams," shouted Clara, emboldened now. "We can show the world our vision of faith in action. Our fears do not define us." Martha's heart soared as she looked around the room, a kaleidoscope of renewed hope and mutual support. They were no longer a group of scarred individuals. They were a community ready to embrace their miracles together. And as they shared their dreams, glowing with warmth like embers, a soft light began to twinkle in the chapel's corners. The flicker transformed into a soft glow, gently swelling as it enveloped the villagers. It was a warm embrace, a validation of their courage, a tangible sign of the divine at work. "Look," Clara gasped, voice trembling with awe. "The light is telling us something." As eyes widened in wonder, the room collectively held its breath, each soul trembling on the brink of the miraculous. "Martha," Clara whispered, "what do you think it means?" In that moment, facing the glowing presence, Martha felt the weight of the world shift within her. She had known faith, had lived it, but this felt different. It was like standing at the edge of a great ocean, the tide about to change, carrying with it whispers of a new beginning. "What if we simply trust?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The congregation leaned in, hearts racing with unspoken questions. They stood poised before the light, a perfect blend of vulnerability and strength. And as the glow continued to grow, illuminating the chapel in divine assurance, the question echoed softly in the corners of their minds: could they truly embrace what was unfolding? What journey awaited them if they chose to answer the call of faith and step boldly into the unknown? The glow enveloped them, a warm cocoon infused with hope. The air pulsed with a presence that felt alive and aware. Martha's heart raced. I think she began, but words stumbled from her lips as the glow brightened. Suddenly, the very walls of the chapel seemed to reverberate with ancient hymns and chants, a melody that transcended time. It was as if echoes from generations past joined their gathering, reminding them of the sacred lineage they were part of. Martha could hear the promises made long ago, the faith that had endured trials and tribulations. Clara, with eyes wide and shimmering, looked directly at Martha. Maybe the light is a sign, she breathed. A call to action. What if we're meant to do more than just share our dreams? What if we take the first step together out into the world? Henry, still charged with the fire of his earlier proclamation, nodded fervently. Let this light be a beacon. Let us form teams to carry our dreams beyond these walls. His words ignited a spark in the villagers. They began to murmur excitedly, their visions expanding like horizons opening up before them. Old man Jacob stepped forward again, his face illuminated by the glow. In every land where faith has flourished, it started with a singular act of bravery. It takes only a few willing hearts to start a revival. We can carry the warmth of this light to the fields, the homes, even the markets. The villagers erupted with shouts of agreement. Excitement draped across their shoulders like a fine cloak. Their thoughts intertwined, weaving a tapestry of intentions that echoed throughout the chapel. Let us lay plans. Clara piped up again, her spirit buoyant. What if we gather our skills, our crafts, our cookings, our stories, and share them? Let us gather the children, the elders, everyone, and remind them that we have a promise to uphold. Martha felt that familiar warmth stir within her, a reminder that slow, steady growth could come from even the smallest of seeds sown with intention. She listened to the chorus of voices, each one adding notes to the symphony of collective faith. As they spoke, the glow pulsed brighter, almost dancing in response to their enthusiasm. Together, ideas took shape. They pictured gatherings of music and art, evenings filled with laughter, and moments spent in prayer and reflection. Yet amidst their excitement, a quiet thought sprouted within Martha's heart, a gentle nudge. What would demand of them? She knew that stepping out in faith often meant confronting the storms, the opposition. Would their newfound courage withstand such trials? Her mind wrestled with this dilemma, the call and the weight of it swirling like leaves in the breeze. She caught Clara's eye, sensing the unspoken question. What if some falter? Clara whispered. What if we meet resistance? Martha took a breath, feeling the weight of both fear and faith collide. Then we must be there for each other, she answered firmly. Like the roots of a tree, we must intertwine, strengthen each other in frailty. We will rise together or we will fall together, but we will do it as one. The congregation fell quiet. Each heart beat louder than the last, echoing with resolve. In that sacred silence, they each understood the essence of faith was not just about successes, but also about the journey, the unity, and the deep connections they forged along the way. And as they stood, anchored in this revelation, the chapel light shimmered one last time, promising more than they could comprehend. Could this be a sign that their small acts of faith could invoke something monumental? What awaited them if they took that first step beyond the chapel, embracing whatever came next? As the dawn broke on September 7th, a soft golden light streamed through the chapel windows, washing over the gathered villagers like warm honey. Each soul sat quietly, still holding on to the fervent promise of the previous days, hearts filled with the anticipation of what lay ahead. Martha could sense it, the alive energy thrumming in the air, waiting for the right moment to unleash its miracle. They had come together as family, ready to transform their village into a haven of faith and love, a sanctuary where fear would be vanquished and hope would take root. Martha stood at the front, confidence flooding through her as she felt the weight of collective prayers pressing down gently upon her shoulders. "We have witnessed the extraordinary," she exclaimed, her voice clear and unwavering. "We have tasted the sweetness of unity, watched doubt melt into belief, and witnessed love bridging gaps that tried to keep us apart. The winds of change are here." The villagers murmured in approval, eyes gleaming with determination. Clara, now a pillar of strength, smiled at Martha, her initial skepticism entirely transformed into unshakable faith. "What comes next is ours to decide," Clara called out, her voice ringing out like the sound of a bell, harmonizing perfectly with Martha's words. William, standing beside Martha, raised his hand, urging the crowd to listen. "Today, we take our first steps together. Every offering, each prayer, becomes a seed released into the soil of this village. Let us ensure our soil is rich with love, trust, and perseverance." The air vibrated with agreement. The villagers began to speak up, sharing plans for community gatherings filled with joyful worship, heartfelt stories, and collaborative efforts to support each other in times of need. They envisioned celebrations where every family, every child, felt the love radiating from the heart of Netherfield. As plans unfurled, a soft wind whispered through the chapel, touching every face with its gentle caress, as if heaven itself approved of their vision. Rich laughter broke the air, the sweet sound of joy mingling with hope. But then, an unexpected hush washed over the room. Old man Jacob, his weathered skin reflecting the light of wisdom, stood once more. "Let us not forget the trials that may come," he said, his tone inviting contemplation. "For every journey that seeks to spread light must also prepare for shadows. As we step into this ignition of faith, we must also face our doubts." A palpable tension filled the room as the villagers absorbed his words. Martha took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the truth within them. "Yes," she responded, stepping forward. "Yet in every shadow, we carry the light of our faith. When one of us falters, we lift each other. We become reflections of God's unwavering love and strength." The villagers nodded, their unity shimmering like stars in the night sky, a promise of resilience against whatever might come. With renewed conviction, they took hands, forming a circle in the chapel. One by one, voices rose in prayer, each word an affirmation of faith. Those gathered prayed for strength, guidance, and unity. They even spoke aloud the trials they had carried, offering them up as sacrifices for a brighter future. The chapel vibrated as their intentions swirled around them, a fragrant offering rising to the heavens. Suddenly, a soft warmth enveloped them, wrapping around their hearts like a gentle embrace. "You are loved, and you are worthy," the divine whisper echoed through the air. The presence filled the room like a rush of wind, sweet like honey, yet powerful enough to shake the very foundations of doubt. Tears of joy streamed down Martha's cheeks. In this sacred moment, she understood they were not just hugging each other as burdens, but fulfilling a divine call, standing together as a loving community woven by divine threads. As they concluded their prayers, the villagers remained in the circle, their hands interconnected, feeling the heartbeat of one another, pulsing with unwavering hope. "Today is but the beginning," William spoke softly, igniting the fire anew. "Let our faith illuminate paths we've yet to tread. Let us reach out into our homes, our families, our neighbors in love, compassion, and unity." With that, they began to chant a soft melody, a song of hope for their village. "We trust in the journey. We believe in the light. We'll carry each other as one heart, united in might. The energy surged, lifting spirits, dispelling shadows that dared to linger. Laughter bubbled up anew, spreading like wildflowers rooted in fertile soil, and in that bottled-up moment, the chapel radiated divine vibrance. As they stood together in prayer, Martha felt a tug in her heart. What they had achieved in unity was merely the beginning. This was their moment, the call of faith to step boldly into the world, knowing they were never alone. "Let us not waste this fire," she spoke, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "We are blessed, and in our blessings, we shall bless others. We'll share our joy, our victories, everything that makes us whole." Emotions surged through the villagers as word by word, they envisioned a transformation that rippled beyond the chapel into every corner of Netherfield. What began as tentative whispers of faith had transformed into a loud, thunderous declaration, each one committed to nurturing this light kindled in their hearts. And as they stepped out into the world, Martha led them forward, hearts ablaze with renewed hope, ready to change their corner of the earth, ready to manifest the extraordinary. This was the certainty the miracle awaited, and through every challenge and triumph, they would walk together, hands clasped tightly in a powerful testimony of unwavering faith. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to pour into the algorithm and keep spreading this radiant message. Comment below your reactions and testimonies about this powerful ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to be uplifted by this glorious manifestation. Let us continue to shine the light of faith together.